Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Upper Room After Hours. We made it for another week, praise Yah. And let's get stuck into another weekly digest of what the world has to offer. Got a good one lined up for you this week. And without further ado, we'll get straight into it. Again, thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure as ever. So let us dive deep into the first segment. So our first story. I think with regards to the way things have been taking shape of late in the world, with regards to gender politics and the kind of wokest liberal agenda, and how it's been playing out in real time, like real fast. I came across this article. Now, this isn't so much about the subject matter, although it is pertinent and does tie in. It's more to do with language and how these politics, these agendas are actually starting to affect reality and some very basic principles of what we've built civilization on for a long time. And it probably sounds a little bit melodramatic, but it is what it is. And a great word that I came across was ontological. Now, ontology is the reference point of reality: up, down, left, right, your awareness, and just basic core principles of being in this dimension. And we are in the midst of what's known as an ontological warfare, where our bearings, our guidance is being completely it's attempted to be obliterated. And I think this article gives a great demonstration of what it means for that warfare to manifest in real time. And why I think language is important, because so much is based on how we do things, and it sounds real simple, but that's just how it is. And when you start messing with basic principles, it's really strange and bizarre. So we have here recently we had the Women's World Cup, and opinions aside about that. I came across this article about a specific player for Canada called Quinn. Now, this individual, again, I just have to stipulate, this is by no means an attack on the individual. Like, I'm sure they're lovely. I've got no beef there whatsoever, but it's more, as I said, in and around the language used in and around this article. It just beggars belief, really. So Quinn is the groundbreaking first out transgender player at a FIFA World Cup. Now, it doesn't take long for the language to just go completely ski whiff. So I'll read it, and we'll just commentate as we go. In their opening match against Nigeria, Canada midfielder Quinn became the first out transgender player at a FIFA World Cup. Like their style of play, it was done with minimal fuss. Again, you're probably not going to need to know anything about football to see how strange this all sounds. Quinn is a key part of Canada's midfield. Their place as the midfield anchor, crucial as the Olympic champions aim to add the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup to their cabinet. They played the full 90 minutes against Nigeria. The result was a goalless draw. But the Canadian number 5's role created history. Now, Quinn came out as non-binary in September 2020, dropping their old first name, asking to be known only by mononym, a name composed of only one word, and saying they would use the pronouns they, them. They have been an important figure for the national setup since making their senior international debut in 2014, when they became teammates with players who had shown them there was a future in football. Seeing the women's national team and fortunately being able to interact with some of them was hugely important for me in understanding that there was a pathway for me, they told Streets of Toronto before this tournament. Now, Quinn is looking to help drive their country's bid for glory just as they did at the Tokyo Olympics. However, the significance of their gender identity, especially given the ongoing and often fraught conversation about transgender athletes, cannot be ignored. It's groundbreaking, historic. Ha Johal, a Canadian freelance journalist who has covered the national team since 2012 and is working at her third World Cup, told BBC Sport. Now, Ha Johal, Canadian journalist, is obviously going to be all over this, but propagating this pronoun narrative, word gymnastics. It shows people who watch sport that you can be non-binary and still play fantastic sport. Quinn is a great footballer and amazing person. Happy and comfortable. That's all you want to be as a professional athlete, to play your best. True. This is the latest piece of history made by the midfielder who plays their club football for OL Reign in the top tier of United States club football. Joe Howe, who has covered Quinn with the Reign since their move there in 2019, says their coming out was a barrier-breaking moment in Canadian sport and society. There was generally a very positive reaction to them coming out, she says. Canada is an open and welcoming country. Nothing changed from the national team perspective. Fans love them just as much before as now. Who's them? The player, the team? I'm confused. Anyway, the greater impact was on the public who don't know as much about the players or soccer in general. Quinn is now seen as a role model for LGBTQ plus people, so it's tremendous they felt comfortable to come out. That support has been born out of the Canadian team at the World Cup. I'm really proud of what Quinn's doing to raise awareness and make, I guess, this world a much more inclusive place, manager Bev Priestman said. Captain Christine Sinclair said, "We joke that we don't deserve Quinn. They're that good of a person." No doubt. Quinn was also the first ever openly transgender Olympian as they played for Canada at the COVID-delayed 2020 games in Japan. Canada's opening fixture, a 1-1 draw with Japan, came several days before transgender woman Laurel Hubbard competed in the weightlifting amid much media fanfare, thus allowing Quinn to make some quiet history. Louder history is made when Canada beat Sweden on penalties in the final, thus making Quinn the first out transgender person to win an Olympic medal. Now they are aiming to add a World Cup title to that roll of honour. Quinn played at the 2019 tournament before coming out, and if they play against the Republic of Ireland in Perth, likely to be in front of the back four as the pivot protecting the defence, it will be their 90th senior international cap. Quinn is a great defensive player, said Johal. They are a fantastic, integral part of how they want to play. Again, they, the individual, they, the team, they are fantastic. Who's fantastic? We saw that versus Nigeria, how difficult it was to get anything going against the Canadian defence. I think they will stay in the lineup. Canada's defence is bread and butter, and Quinn is key to that. It's just like a proper head wrecker trying to... I can literally feel the cogs like seizing in my brain, trying to negotiate these grammatical principles, and it's like it's not right. Unfamiliarity with Quinn's gender led to some negative reaction following the match against Nigeria. Searching their name on Google brings up, does Quinn take testosterone, as the number one suggestion. Quinn said after coming out, they do not plan to increase their testosterone levels nor medically transition through other methods while playing professionally. There will always be rubbish. People with closed minds who want to change law, Jahal says. I hope that when they see an athlete like Quinn, they are a regular and normal person. They love gardening. They are a big gardener, a normal person with normal hobbies. Quinn has not shied away from the attention which naturally comes with being a high-profile transgender athlete. They wore a hoodie saying "Protect Trans Kids" before a rain game, and in a 2020 interview with BBC Sport expressed their concern about trans exclusionary policies from other sporting governing bodies. In June, they took the National Women's Soccer League, the league in which they play for OL Reign, to ask for problematic policies on trans players which do not mention non-binary athletes. I hope the organisation can find space during their Pride celebrations this month to understand and educate themselves, because education is key, on the limitations of their policy. On the pitch, Quinn's style of play is like their career, unfussy and effective. Notable for the job done on the pitch rather than the noise off it. Canada may need a bit more than that, though, to get through a tough Group B, which features co-hosts Australia alongside Republic of Ireland and Nigeria. I'd like to see more of them getting forward, says Jahal. Canada needs goals from anyone, and if they, brackets Quinn, score, what a story. I mean, I'm exhausted. I don't know how well that translated in terms of just how that came across, because it's just, as I said, the mental gymnastics involved in that is too much. And when I say it's a warfare on our senses and common sense and what has been taught and what has been known, I guess I'm just a bit of a dinosaur, but I literally cannot compute. And it's a real struggle. But I think maybe from my part in my personal life, I'm quite fortunate in that I probably am quite sheltered to these agendas in a day-to-day area. I've certainly worked in environments where, you know, the buzzwords of inclusivity and love and progressivism and all of that kind of liberal stuff. I've been in environments where that has been prevalent, but that just really stands out for me now, and I feel very fortunate that it's something I don't have to navigate as much. But as I said, it's not so much about the individual, it's not about the subject as much as what the language and how these things are actually beginning to infiltrate and affect and manipulate media, culture, and even the written words. So that's our first story. As ever, let us know what you think. So do you have to deal with this on a day-to-day? Is there a tolerance on your part with regards to dealing with things that are just completely illogical in under the guise of inclusivity? The struggle is real. The struggle is really real. Okay, for our next story, I was sent a video this week, which I just thought was really cool, and basically inspired this next segment. Slightly unrelated, but I just thought it was cool, so it's probably worth taking a look at. Yeah, really cool. I can watch this sort of stuff all day long. Any lightning, thunder, tornadoes, it's game over. But yeah, just incredible. This is in South America, and very much you get that Exodus vibe, Mount Sinai. But the premise being, like, you don't see this very often, this kind of phenomena, and I think it just got me thinking along the lines of, there's very peculiar things taking place on the earth. And I think this was dovetailed quite nicely with what was in the news this week with regards to the whistleblowing, so-called, in US Congress. And I think there's been a very interesting build-up of late with regards to certain agendas, certain things that are playing out that have been being rolled out and been programmed into the masses for a long time. And we'll take a look at this whistleblowing, UFO whistleblowing that's been taking place in the US Congress, and we'll just get into it.
Help you guide. Let the record show that all
the circumstances surrounding you.
We show that Democrats and Republicans in Congress can come together in a bipartisan way to cut through
I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, to which I was denied access to those additional read-ons when I requested it. I made the decision, based on the data I collected, to report this information to my superiors and multiple inspectors general, and in effect becoming a whistleblower. As you know, I've suffered retaliation for my decision, but I am hopeful that my actions will ultimately lead to a positive outcome of increased transparency.
Have you faced any retaliation or reprisals for any of your testimony or anything on these lines?
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say in detail because there is an open whistleblower reprisal investigation on my behalf, and I don't want to compromise that investigation by providing anything that may help provide somebody information. But it was very brutal and very unfortunate, some of the tactics they used to hurt me both professionally and personally, to be quite frank.
I take it that you're arguing what we need is real transparency in a reporting system so we can get some clarity on what's going on out there, because there are many pilots in your situation, but we should have a way of developing a systematic inventory of all of such encounters. Is that right?
Yes, and I think we need both transparency and the reporting. We have the reporting, but we need to make sure that information can be promulgated to commercial aviation as well as the rest of the populace.
Well, what about you? What was your experience after you came forward?
Well, it's only been about 2 months or so I guess my experience has been overwhelming support from former colleagues of mine that have privately messaged me, and I do appreciate that. But I do have knowledge of active planned reprisal activity against myself and other colleagues, and it's very, very upsetting to me.
Coming from where?
Certain senior leadership at previous agencies I was associated with.
help you guide.
So we've got this former agent who is basically disclosing information with regards to UFOs and aliens and the like. And there's a lot of information being shared in and around this these meetings, but essentially this guy's he's revealing, but not really revealing anything. And I think basically the 20-year-old me would be getting super excited about the disclosure of the aliens and the UFOs, but fast forward a number of years, and I'd like to think a degree of an increase of Bible literacy has given me a good grounding for maybe being a bit skeptical about things like this now. for all intents and purposes, this guy could well be telling the truth about his experiences, and he could well be doing his bit. But a couple of things in that he doesn't explicitly reveal like any major stuff, and I think the key part for me is an individual who is whistleblowing, who was formerly part of a government agency. He's only saying things that he's been either allowed to say or been instructed to say, as far as I'm concerned. For what reason, we'll get into, and again, the things that we cover may not be new, but I think it's just a fresh twist on events. Next clip. Here we go.
Believe that our government is in possession of UAPs.
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General.
Has any of the activity been aggressive, been hostile in your reports?
I know of multiple colleagues of mine that got physically injured. And the activity, and I got
by UAPs or by people within the federal government?
Both.
If you were me, where would you look? Titles, programs, departments?
I'd be happy to give you that in a closed environment. I can tell you specifically.
And I would say, and I've told people that you have to know where to look. They're not going to divulge it to you because of the classification levels. But if you know where to look and who to talk to, which is exactly where Mr. Grush can point you, then you have them.
Do you believe that our government is in possession?
So yeah, this guy's basically saying that he's got names, he's got places, he knows where both the tracking and the reusing of unidentified technology is being used by government agencies rather, but without being specific. And again, I just with the American government's history of controlling and manipulating information, there's nobody who's going on mainstream media and talking candidly without them giving the go-ahead. So he speaks about how the fallout from his whistleblowing has been brutal and difficult, and he's facing all of these obstacles. And again, that could very well be true. But I think the angle we're looking at is why, when governments, both in the UK and just in the West in general, and probably across the world, have been notoriously suppressing information in and around the realms of UFOs and aliens and all the rest of it, technologies and military involvement. Again, because of the complexity and the depth and the history of this subject, I'm going to try and keep this narrow, because we could go into all sorts of, Antarctica, Admiral Byrd, and we could go into many different directions. But what I wanted to kind of just graze over is this premise of a preparation of disclosure, a preparation of an acceptance and understanding that there is other life, that we do have visitors among us and all the rest of it, And as I say, going back to the days of watching the X-Files and all of that stuff, this would have been would have had a completely different angle on it. But I think when you look at these things through a biblical lens, and I'm not saying I've got this one sewn up by any stretch, but when it speaks of in Revelation, the premise of a grand deception, and you have the now infamous operation or Project Bluebeam. It makes you wonder how we've gone from the suppressing of information, when you're thinking from Roswell in the 50s all the way through to modern day, this gentle edging and revealing and acceptance of this narrative, and how we're being primed and prepared and ready to accept this life from outer space, as it were. And Again, this I don't think biblical cosmology and how you see the earth and everything else really, I think it can have an effect on how you feel about these things, but essentially it's still the same principle of a deception in order to accept false gods, really. So I just thought I'd take it back to the foundation of what Bluebeam actually is, because I think it can be a buzzword that maybe people aren't necessarily familiar with or know too much about. Now, this was there was basically an investigative journalist by the name of Serge Monast. He was a Canadian guy. And I'll just read it. In 1994, Serge Monast published Project Bluebeam, in brackets NASA, in which he detailed his claim that NASA, with the help of the United Nations, is attempting to implement a new age religion with the Antichrist at its head and start a new world order via technologically simulated second coming of Christ. And this project has 4 steps, and we'll look at those 4 steps. But it's interesting. So when you start getting into this premise of, UFOs, aliens, but how it's somehow woven into this narrative of Antichrist and New World Order. And again, for the tin hat enthusiasts out there, it can be a bit of a bumpy ride when you get into these areas. But for the most part, this is something that's like probably not even that like hidden. Like most folks might well have heard of Bluebeam and this premise that there is a spiritual deception taking place. But yeah, it's a fascinating insight when you start looking into, and as I was as a kid, I was fascinated by UFOs and aliens and everything else, but I had no idea about the relations to the spiritual realm and how we're dealing with, the realms of fallen angels and demons and deceptions and all of those things. It's quite an amazing subject. But anyway, these 4 steps to Bluebeam. Step 1, the breaking down of all the archaeological knowledge by faking earthquakes at precise locations around the planet. Fake new discoveries will finally explain to all people the error of all fundamental religious doctrines, specifically Christian and Muslim doctrines. Now, I just want to state, I didn't write these steps. I don't know if I necessarily agree with all these steps, but I think it's interesting taking a look and seeing if any of these things are ringing true, given that this was written, 20 odd years ago. Step 2, a gigantic space show wherein 3-dimensional holographic laser projections will be beamed all over the planet. The projections will take shape of whatever deity is most predominant and will speak in all languages. At the end of the light show, all gods will merge into one god, that is the Antichrist. Disillusion of social and religious order will set loose millions of programmed religious fanatics through demonic possession on a scale never witnessed before. United Nations plan to use Beethoven's Ode to Joy as the introduction to the new age one world religion. Gosh. Well, really, even step 2 isn't like it doesn't feel that far away in terms of the technologies and the things that are available. Step 3. Well, actually, going back to step 1 where it says about the archaeological knowledge and faking earthquakes, there's always deception and suppressing of biblical information and archaeology. I mean, you've got the Smithsonian Institute up to no good. You've got even just the premise of like good biblical archaeology just being completely ignored. Many atheists and many opponents of the faith will just have absolutely even no idea that there are really amazing artifacts out there, or it's hidden. Okay, step 3, telepathic electronic two-way communication, which involves making people think their God is speaking to them through telepathy, projected into the head of each person individually using extreme low frequency waves, in brackets ELF. Now, I mean, that's a whole show in itself, isn't it? When you're talking about voices in the head, telepathy, communication. I think even if you're looking at the realms of hallucinogenic drugs and different psychoactive substances and how people have shared experiences, communication in a realm that isn't governed by the dimensions of this one. It goes on in terms of how communication can actually take place in different realms. But what's curious is, I'm just using this anecdotally as well. When you hear of the classic, oh, well, I heard the voices in my head, or Jesus told me to do X, Y, and Z. I can't tell you how many massacres or killers where it's like, no, I believe I was being told by God to do this, or God told me this, or God. There's always some kind of attributing to Jesus or God when somebody does something absolutely crazy. And to that, I say, I like the fact that the Lord speaks to me through the word. That's how he communicates to me, and I'm quite happy with that. Right, step 4. Step 4 has 3 parts. 4.1, making humanity think an alien invasion is about to occur at every major city. Well, we'll get into that more. 4.2, making the Christians think the rapture is about to happen. That's a interesting conversation within itself, because there are obviously different stances on eschatology and the order of things. But I think for the most part, I mean, Yeshua said, "Behold, I come quickly." I think we can all agree that we are in the last days, as it were. But the order of events is definitely hotly disputed within the faith, to say the least. So there may be those who could be maybe more easily persuaded that a rapture is about to take place. But I digress. 4.3, a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces, allowing the supernatural forces to travel through fiber optics that coax power and telephone lines to penetrate all electronic equipment and appliances that will by then all have a special microchip installed. I mean, it's no coincidence he's referred to as the prince and the power of the airwaves. The goal of this deals with global satanic ghosts projected all around the world in order to push all populations to the edge of hysteria and madness, to drown them into a wave of suicide, murder, and permanent psychological disorders. After the night of the 1,000 stars, worldwide... I'm pretty sure the last queen said something about 1,000 stars. Anyway, after the night of the 1,000 stars, worldwide populations will be ready for the new Messiah to re-establish order and peace at any cost, even at the cost of abdication of freedom. Then chaos will break out, and people will finally be willing, perhaps even desperate, to accept the new world order. All people will be required to take an oath to Lucifer with a ritual initiation to enter the new world order. Resistors will be categorized as follows. Christian children will be kept for human sacrifice or as slaves, and prisoners to be used in medical experiments. Now, I think the Project Bluebeam goes like way deeper than just this synopsis, but so I don't want to say this is a conclusive statement about it, but I think it just gives a brief overview of what this I guess what this collation of technology, spiritual application, and basically wizardry all comes into one. And so with that, it's this premise of humanity, the human race, being primed to accept a Antichrist, of these fallen beings, these minions of Satan, under the guise of UFOs and aliens, which, again, depending on how you've looked at this, there are those that just say they're all demons. There's no such things as aliens from outer dimensional beings, that it's all demonic. It's all part of a spiritual principle rather than a cosmological one, which is quite a compelling argument, I guess. So yeah, with that being said, I've just seen a couple of examples with regards to how technology has actually come to the part where it's not too far off in terms of being able to pull off a light show, as it were, that could potentially trick the masses into thinking that the ghoulies are here. So saw this one, it's a giant Barbie in Dubai. Now, again, it's just that fact of like, this is just what we can see or what's been revealed in terms of advertising. Who knows what technologies are being ready to roll out for the big event. I mean, that's a madness. If you've been around the block for a bit, I can't believe that we're at, like, graphics and technology is getting to this point of like, it's just insane. We've got the Las Vegas sphere. It's like $2 billion sphere that projects images on this massive ball. I mean, I just think there are a good couple of examples of like quite the levels of technology and where we're at and the potential, how that can be used, really. Again, this is just scratching the surface. We could probably sit here for a long time looking at these things. And then if we just get into the weird and wonderful, again, the things that have been taking place in the sky. And now, like, UFOs and all of this phenomena is not a new thing. Obviously, like, goes way back in history. I think in modern history, you've got the main catalyst being the Roswell incident in the 1950s, how it's then sort of propagated in popular culture, in cinema, you know, the aliens from Mars, you know, they came from outer space, like that whole sketch throughout the 60s and 70s. And then I think certainly growing up in my teenage years, you had the X-Files, which really captured the imagination in terms of, you know, there being more sentient life than what we've been told. And so I think it's just fascinating how we've arrived at this place where the governments are supposedly going through this season of disclosure. And with the advent of social media and telephones as well, it's like telephones? Where did telephones come from? Mobile phones. We've now got access to a lot of these things being sighted. Now, it's one of those ones where has the activity increased, or has the ability to capture this activity increased? Has it been the same rate of UFOs and phenomena, or is it just that we're able to capture them more? Or is there an increase because, you know, things are hotting up? I don't know, but what I think is different is the things that are taking place in the sky. Like, some of the stuff is like next level. I remember, like, growing up, it would be like a little triangle in the sky or a little cigar shaped thing in the sky, and now it's just full out like flipping cities in the clouds and all sorts going on. But it's just a few examples of that sort of thing.
No. What is it?
No idea. I have no clue. Where's the moon?
Is it moving?
It looks like it's glowing.
It's like moving down.
Right. whatever that is.
I mean, you can couple all this up with, you know, all of the videos and the footage of like strange noises, like worldwide. You had I think it's when the Euphrates dried up and there's all sorts of like strange noises coming from underground, and you know, I guess there are different perspectives. There's, you know, is this really the beginning of the end? Is it all a deception? Is this just a massive blag? Is there really going to be a spiritual infiltration from things from a different realm into this one? Yeah, it's quite fascinating, really. But and then we got the actual like UFOs themselves, and again, I think with cameras and phones and stuff, like some of the footage is actually pretty incredible. Yeah, so it's.
The screen, there it goes, and then the camera will slew to follow it. You'll see it pop in and out of the field of view there. This is essentially all of the data we have associated with this event from some years ago.
Yeah, so there we have it. Something's definitely afoot, and again, it's a case that we're not given a spirit of fear. These things are expected to take place, and I think it's again, it's something to be maybe perhaps excited about, that we're seeing biblical themes come to the fore, and we look forward to seeing what takes place. What are we saying then? Little men from outer space, or is it all demonic? Are we nearing the latter days? Is it fast upon us, or is it just CGI, similar to the AI principle of the man behind the curtain pulling the strings to make something appear somewhat different than it actually is? I don't know. Let me know. Okay, last story for this episode. It's always good to end on some good news. Quite an inspiring story, this one. I think it's a great reminder of the privileged position that we have being believers in Yeshua, and some of the ways in which people can come to salvation can be very difficult and very extreme, and I think this story illustrates this, and just a very powerful reminder of what he does and how he brings people to freedom and peace in him. Just going to let this one play out.
With a machete and left in a field for dead. This victim's story is just one of many, the survivor stories from a ministry called the House of Hope in Southeast Asia. That's where an ex-drug addict and dealer from California is now saving women and girls from the sex trade. Chuck Holton reports.
Across Southeast Asia, a multi-billion-dollar worldwide industry thrives in the shadows, preying upon the vulnerable and innocent. Underage prostitution is commonplace, and in the middle of this darkness, an unexpected source of light.
I'm an ex-drug addict, drug dealer. I used to cook meth, and I lived in California, and I was a terrible person. I was really scandalous, very violent. I was a homosexual, and I let sin control me. And finally, God saved me when I was in prison.
But her amazing story doesn't end there. When Holly completed her sentence, she decided to go to Bible school.
All of a sudden, when I was getting ready to graduate, the Lord called me to Asia. And it was just like this instant love just poured through my heart for these people that I never met and I didn't know. And I was like, okay, I'll go. And so that's how I got called to come here.
Unsure of what God had for her, Holly bought a one-way ticket, and she found while walking the streets of her new home, her checkered past became an asset.
From my background, it was easy to see the traffickers. And in my mind, they were like little skinny wimps.
Before long, Holly was saving girls from the sex trade.
The Lord ended up putting on my heart to open a girls' house, just to open a safe place for women to come from the village if they wanted to study in the capital city.
But saving girls' lives cost the traffickers money.
Somebody attempted to kill me, to pull me off a moto, and I had the left side of my body basically destroyed. I was in the hospital, messed up.
At her lowest point, American missionaries Victor and Eileen Marks stepped in to support Holly's House of Refuge.
After I met Victor and Eileen, everything changed, and that now we're a lot more safe. We can actually get the bad guys incarcerated, which is a big deal.
More than 40 women and girls now shelter in Holly's home, all with horrific stories of abuse and redemption.
He put acid first. Yeah.
He put acid on you first,
Yeah. On
on your face.
yeah. And then my eye
Uh-huh.
so hot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hot. Yeah, it burned your eyes.
Yeah. He
So you couldn't see?
yes.
Oh, okay.
He
He grabbed your hair
yeah. And
pulled up.
cut yeah. And
He cut your hand?
yeah. This first.
Oh, cut this hand first. Yeah.
And eyes. He cut.
Uh-huh. Right here.
Yeah. Here.
Right here.
Yeah.
The man attacked her with a meat cleaver and then left her to die in the dark.
When I was laying out there in the field, I said, if there is a God, please help me, help your child. Because back then, I was a staunch Buddhist, but I had heard about Jesus Christ before. I said, if there is a God, help your child, Jesus. I heard a sound, and it said, child, get up. When I heard that voice, I couldn't get up because I had no power in me. There was blood all over, and I couldn't sit up, but I felt something that felt like a big hand go underneath my back and help lift me up.
Her family eventually found Nora and took her to the hospital. That's where Holly found her. With a safe place to stay and help from donors, Nora eventually recovered. Now she's found peace with the trauma of her past and can even be thankful for the tragedy that brought her to God. Is it difficult to come back here? Is it hard for you to come here again?
I freedom.
I have freedom.
I have freedom. Yeah. I'm okay. Happy. Yeah.
You're amazing. You're amazing. These girls aren't just being saved from sexual slavery. They're being invited into a new family.
It's not a program. You don't get saved and go into a program. You get saved and you come into the family of God. We're children of God.
From East Asia, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Yeah. Well, great story. And it's amazing to see the transformation in people's lives. And it's always inspiring and a great reminder to see the adversity that others go through and are still going through. And that it's our instruction to pick up our cross and to follow him come what may. And what a privilege it is to do that. So that's it for this week. Thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it. Again, like, subscribe, get involved with the comments. Let us know what you think about the stories, and we look forward to hearing from you. So from our house to yours, this has been the Upper Room After Hours. Shalom, love to you all, and God bless.